adult language and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not continue.
We would be honored if you would join us.
How are you feeling? Your latest workups on your condition indicate that all damage has been reversed. Recovery is total. I believe you have been quite fortunate. No further thanks are necessary, Commander, but you are most welcome. It is my function and pleasure as a medical droid to help and heal human beings.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
All right, hello everybody out there in the Star Wars radio land. We are back for another live Star Wars from the Bacta Tank, exclusively on Rain Man Digital. And yes, I did say we are live. This will be our first live Star Wars Rebels edition of the show. I am in studio today with, of course, David Sabal.
Hello.
Jedi Master Greg.
It's our first Rebels edition. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, and then, of course, Dustin on via Holonet.
What's stupid.
And, of course, if the name of the show, Star Wars Rebels Edition, has returned for Season 2 of Star Wars Rebels. If you guys, hopefully you followed along with us last season, which was barely a couple months ago, which is nice. Isn't that kind of nice?
Yeah.
We didn't have to wait very long.
We had a nice break.
A little break, but also not like a 6-month, it's not The Walking Dead.
No.
Where you're waiting for like a year and a half to see nothing happen the next season again and again.
And again.
And again and again and again. And 5 years later, you're still waiting for something to happen. And that's something we did not get in Star Wars Rebels Season 2 premiere. I have to say that so much happened. And the pacing, the writing, we're going to get into I think we're going to get into everything. And hopefully we can stick to about an hour. But hey, listen, I'm a warning here. Where we may end up going for 2 hours just because of the fact that there was a lot.
There was a ton.
There was so much that happened in this. Like it was an hour episode, but
didn't it feel like a 2-hour movie?
It felt longer than an hour.
Didn't it? Usually, Usually, you're like, oh, it's over. It's too short.
But at the end, I also felt like we were kind of shorted a little bit,
just a bit.
Yeah. Just like you wanted to see more. What the heck is going to happen?
Like a preview of next week, but I figure like they're going to have this and they're going to split it into like a 2-parter.
Yeah. It's kind of like when a girl looks into my pants for the first time. She's like, I thought it would be more. Oh. Hopefully, it's not split into a 2-parter. That'd be
wow.
That would be weird. Wow. So
just wait till the second part comes out.
Now, speaking of second part. Dave Filoni has really been stepping up the PR. Obviously, he has to for Star Wars Rebels. And he mentioned that if Season 1 of Star Wars Rebels can be, compared to Star Wars New Hope, he says his goal for Star Wars Season 2, Star Wars Rebels Season 2, was to, in fact, compare it and say, look, guys, this is my Empire Strikes Back. So that was his goal with this new season, was to give it that Empire Strikes Back kicking the ass feel. And
it works.
So far, so good. Yes, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and there's so many more story arcs that can go this way and that. I don't know. Last season, we kind of figured Ezra and Kanan.
Yes.
Can someone turn that fan off, please, really fast? I keep hearing it. Last season it could either be Ezra or Kanan, and that was kind of the focus with a little bit of Zeb, a little bit of Hera, a little bit of Sabine. But I think the driving force we all thought was in fact going to be Ezra and Kanan.
Yeah, it was to establish those characters,
right? And it was fun. It was good. Now Season 2 seems like there is so much. I mean, let's break it down. We have the Rebels. Okay, not just the little group of the Rebels. We have Ghost. The Rebel Alliance in its very newly born state. We have the group of Rebels, Hera, Sabine, Zeb, Ezra, and Kanan, and we have a new addition to the Rebels team, which is in fact Ahsoka.
Yes.
And that's something we've all been kind of questioning what they're really going to do with the storyline. And I think by the end of this show, I don't want to spoil it yet, but by the end of this episode, we kind of got her
we know
purpose.
What the story is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see that. And that's one thing I thought that was really interesting. I think we discussed this in one of our previous shows, but a good move on Dave Filoni's part was including, because of course, if you guys don't know, Dave Filoni was also the showrunner and writer, creative force behind, of course, the Clone Wars series.
Yes.
That ended when Disney bought out George Lucas. But something Dave Filoni always wanted to do, as we said, was he wanted to make sure that he did not forget Clone Wars, and he wanted to make sure people understand that the story never really ends. It does continue. And that's one of the best parts about Star Wars Rebels is that we get a little bit of that continuation, which we have seen in upcoming previews. Obviously, we know we're going to see the clones eventually,
yes.
At least a few of them. Also, Ahsoka. Ahsoka is going to be, for all intents and purposes, is going to be that bridge that bridges Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels and the Star Wars universe as we know it. Now we have Ahsoka thrown into the mix, bridging the gap between Clone Wars and the New Hope era.
Yes.
And that's something that I think has a lot of fans psyched.
Because especially after Clone Wars, where Ahsoka's character was where she was left off, it left so many fans of Star Wars wondering, okay, what's the what happens to her character? What's the point of her character in this story?
Yeah.
I think, like what you said, I think after this episode, the season premiere, we can definitively say that the big storyline here is what's Ahsoka's ending chapter?
Yeah.
What's her final chapter?
Yeah.
What happens?
Do you
to
think
her?
it'll be a final chapter? Are you gonna call out things already? Go ahead if you feel lucky.
I'm ready to actually say after what we saw, especially at that ending scene.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to say that this could be the final chapter for Ahsoka.
Really?
And everyone wanted to know, well, what happened to her?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to find out.
Yeah. Okay, of course,
They made it a major
Vader was in
storyline.
fact in it. Okay,
Yeah.
throughout the entire, from the very first act of the show, the opening teaser, we saw Vader. Now, something we've been talking about and discussing since the very beginning of Star Wars Rebels is whether or not Darth Vader will wear out his welcome or if they're going to utilize him appropriately. And that was our fear. Will Ahsoka and Vader take away the attention off of the focus of the Rebel crew, which is in fact the stars of the show?
Yes.
Yes, we love Vader. Yes, we love Ahsoka, but will it take away? And I think the way they've done it, just seeing this first episode, I think they're onto something really good. And
they are.
I think they, I didn't mean to interrupt you, David.
No,
but
no,
I think
go ahead.
I think they did it really intelligently where, okay, this first, episode, or, in this case, they'll probably, like I said, they'll split this into part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
But they did it really well to where you've got, you have a ton of Vader and Ahsoka in the episode. You have, them kind of like, hey, we're here, we're established characters.
Yeah.
But you have it to where, like, at the end of the episode, what happens is that basically it says, okay, Vader's still going to be around, but we're going to go ahead and hand it off to these other characters to where when they need to bring Vader back, they can't. And it's not like they're just bringing him back to like, hey, come back and watch the show. It's more so, hey, this has happened now. Now he has to come. He's coming in to kind of finish it because he's no longer just, Anakin, or he's no longer just, an apprentice. He's now, a Sith Lord essentially.
Yeah.
And, I think we're going to see a lot more of that, but also too, Ahsoka in the same way, I think is going to kind of play that, almost like another mentor for Ezra. And I think that's what all of us, kind of suspected, or, we've all kind of, I think everybody, not just us, but other fans and even podcasts have even kind of said, essentially Ahsoka might come in and take over in helping to train Ezra.
Right.
Well, not just Ezra either, dude. I mean, if you
even Kanan, Kanan was a Padawan when his master died.
Yeah.
So he has a lot to learn from Ahsoka as well, and I'm hoping we see that because, as we know, there is no set. I think in the early days of Star Wars, we all thought there was one Jedi Master that trained you. Your main master. There is the main man, but we've seen that Yoda trains all of the Jedi eventually. They all go through, just like in college, you have different teachers. That's kind of how the Jedi Academy was set up. You go and you're taught by various masters. And then, of course, you have your main master that you learn from, that you go on missions with, that you're the Padawan, yada, yada, yada. And I think that's something that Ahsoka can really bring to the table now is you see the bringing of the new era and the old era. You see the old Jedi way kind of going with the new Jedi way. And maybe you'll see her teaching Kanan valuable lessons as well, which is something that I'm hoping we do see. I hope we do see a little bit of, because Kanan has a lot to learn.
And honestly, too, is kind of like, when I think back to how this premiere went, yes, the main storyline was, will Ahsoka and Vader meet up?
Yeah.
But honestly, the things that they really did that were really good was sprinkling in like these little moments of like character development for Kanan. I mean, the one thing that really had me interested was the fact that Kanan was really against joining the rebels.
And let's jump into it now. That's one thing that I agree with you. That's probably, despite the Vader moments, that's probably one of my favorite moments because it shows that Dave Filoni knows how to write the hell out of a script. He gave everybody an arc and a focus.
Exactly.
And the fact that we now see what Kanan's arc is going to be this season, it fits everything. Even though Kanan Jarrus is kind of a new character in the Star Wars world, there is a lot of history already has been developed on him.
Yeah.
And we know that he saw his master get slayed by clone troopers.
Yes.
Right, point blank, he was right there. He saw it, he witnessed it, and he has this obvious, not a fear, but he doesn't want to be involved or work side by side with soldiers. And that was very apparent in this episode. He specifically made it a point because obviously time has passed. The Rebel group is now working with the Rebel Alliance. And Hera is all for it. She's gung-ho, she's involved, and she's all about fighting in this war. And he's going back to the old Kanan. If you read the book, what's it called? A New Dawn.
A New Dawn.
Of how Kanan did not want to be involved.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be involved because he saw firsthand what happened in a war. And specifically, he's working now side by side with soldiers, and he doesn't have trust for the soldiers. That's got to leave a lasting impression on you. Imagine being betrayed by your comrades in a war.
Yeah.
And now you are asking to be trusted. You're asking to trust unknown soldiers to fight in a war that you don't really know you have a place in.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think too with Kanan, just because I think even in not in the book but in the comic,
yeah, I've been reading. It's pretty.
He
good.
was kind of from what I remember, and he's kind of not rebellious, but he was kind of that.
He's a rebellious mentality.
Yeah,
he has a rebel attitude.
He has that snarky attitude.
Yeah,
he also questions. He questions authority.
But too, it was also kind of the same way, like with Kenobi. When in the Clone Wars, where you found out about his past, like where he was kind of rebellious as well. But that comes from Qui-Gon. Was his master, and he was again he did stuff that Jedi wouldn't do.
Right.
He bet he did. So it's kind of they have these line of characters that end up doing something great. But they have this past where like they did stuff, they rebelled against like what you should do, like
Well, that's exactly what Kanan did in New Dawn. He went against everything he ever believed, meaning not bad things, but he went against the Jedi way. He forsook the Jedi way. Forsake. There we go. He forsaked the Jedi way and never went back. Yes, because his master told him to run, told him to hide. He refused to get involved in anything and everything. Now to see this man get involved and be pushed in this situation, this is a story arc that I'm really looking forward to seeing. But I hope they really capitalize on that, because that will really make a standout moment for Kanan this season, or standout moments for Kanan this season,
right,
and really help him stand apart from everybody else, showing that he has that mentality of, okay guys, that's fine, let's do this, but let's stay cautious. And I hope his caution comes into play.
Right. Well, again, I think it's where this is one of those things where he's that character that, in the past he's seen what war has done to people, just like Ahsoka, but they've, they're on both, they're on the same side, but they saw two, I think
they're on different paths.
They saw two different facets of the war. Like they, had two totally different experiences, and where Kanan's like, I don't want a part of this war. I've seen what it does.
He saw the betrayal.
Yeah. He's like,
Ahsoka was gone.
I want none of this.
Yeah.
And he's slowly being pulled back in, and he's trying to just distance himself as much as possible, while still kind of sticking to that original idea of stealing from the Empire and giving to the needy, that whole Robin Hood mentality.
Right.
But he's slowly getting pulled into this war, and he doesn't want to.
And it shows that, and by doing that comment you just that point you just brought up shows that he's not a coward. He just wants to pick his battles correctly.
Right. He knows, he wants to be able to say, okay, this is where we can definitely help people a lot, and not have a huge risk. Whereas opposed to like, okay, we're going to take on the Empire to help people.
Yeah.
That's a giant risk. It's worth it, but it's a giant risk that he's not willing to take, because he knows firsthand what can happen.
Well, the way they did it this episode was pretty good. It's exactly how they needed it to be, so it doesn't they don't blow their load, and they don't.
And it shows that Ahsoka. It almost seems like Ahsoka kind of puts Kanan almost on the same level as her as far as being a Jedi,
right?
but she understands that he's gone away from his training. He didn't keep up with it because
she also left, right? She left the Jedi Order.
She left
right?
the Jedi. She
maybe
left
that's how they'll find common ground and deal with things.
I think the way that Kanan's story arc is going to honestly fit is his almost kind of like how he's almost now the polar opposite of Ezra.
Yeah.
Because just like what you said earlier, Ezra is like this gung-ho young kid who says, hey, I want to help people. I want to be in the forefront. But Kanan's constantly saying, hey, you have to be careful. You have to be cautious. And the thing that I really like that they did a callback to from the season finale is the fact that Kanan literally tells Ezra, I'm afraid that you're not afraid.
Yeah.
And I think that's how, Greg, how that storyline of Kanan is going to come out.
Yeah.
I don't think Kanan would ever abandon Ezra to the point where he says, no, I'm out.
Right.
But I think that dynamic is going to become like their storyline, their main storyline.
Right. You may even see a conflict between the two. Like one doesn't want him to be involved. The other says, let's get involved. That may be another conflict. I think Kanan at this point is the most diverse character, and you can pretty much go in any direction with him and it would work easily. Yeah. He's the most versatile character.
Touching on what David brought up about Ezra and Kanan, talking about how he's worried that Ezra isn't afraid.
Yeah.
I think when that part came up and me and Mike were looking at each other, we were kind of waiting. We were kind of hoping that
such nerds.
Yeah, we were saying this is. I think every fan watching this was kind of hoping this line would pop up.
Yeah.
Or he's like, "Aren't you afraid?" He's like, "No." And then we were waiting for Kanan to go.
We both looked at each other and said, "You will be." You're like, "Oh God!"
Yeah, and just
please,
like, or at least just
shoot
like,
me.
or just at least have like, that, like a little like voiceover from Yoda just going, "You."
Oh, that'd be
like,
so
just
cheesy.
like. It would have been super cheesy, but it would have been. I think everybody was like, "Oh fucking yeah, they brought it back." But I think that's, and we talked about this before the show, and I think this is something that it's going to be touched on in later episodes to come. Is Ezra's? He doesn't have a fear. He doesn't have that emotion.
Yeah,
so
and they're going to tie that back around to last season. Some of the things that we saw.
And I think that's going to help be for him as a character, him growing as a Padawan, and him growing, into eventual, hopefully a Jedi. But again, that was the thing where back in the in the old expanded universe, the Jedi, they had this thing where they were connected to the Force, but they didn't let one side rule over another. And I think that's going to be something that's going to come out. Is
you always go back to that? You really think that's going to take place? Because you always bring that up, the Jedi.
I don't know. Like I just think they did so much with it before Disney bought out Lucasfilm that.
Yeah. You never know, man. They're bringing things. They're bringing things from the old Legacy universe. So
again, like I keep bringing it up because I think that past of the Jedi and the Sith is, to me, I think that's crucial.
Yeah.
And finding out where they came from instead of just kind of saying, oh, like now they're like, how are they going to explain their history? I was like, it's really kind of laid out for you, and they kind of take it and do with it what they want. And I think, Filoni and his team, like they've done a phenomenal job because again at Star Wars Celebration, you can tell that they're giant fans of Star Wars, that they're just they want to do it justice. But they when he was even talking about when they were writing season 2 and they were gonna who they wanted to bring back and or what they were gonna do with it, that he probably went back to some of that stuff that's in Legacy that he said, okay, you know what, we need to find a way to kind of write this back in, or hey, let's figure out what we can do with this. But I think that's going to be a big thing is Ezra's no fear. That's going to come into a huge thing, and that's going to.
Well, going off that, let's jump into the scene where we saw Vader for the first time pop in.
Oh my god!
When he goes, not when he first pops in, but the second time when he actually goes head to head with Kanan and Ezra. It was a very short battle, and rightfully so. I did like the creative writing that Filoni and the team did to make sure that it wasn't Kanan and Ezra that defeated Vader or helped him get away. It was an elaborate trap, as we saw. Vader set this elaborate trap to basically allow them to escape, which I think, we've seen that before, but I think that's the only way you're going to see.
Believably make them
only
get away from
way
Ezra,
you're going to
from Vader. But I think
there's no way Kanan and Ezra would ever be able to get away from Vader.
Just the first couple of minutes of this, not even, I think maybe the first 10 minutes, or where they're setting up, this whole thing to rescue, to go back to Lothal and do a big rescue, this big rescue operation. And at the beginning of the show, you talked about, Filoni was saying that this is I want this to be my Empire Strikes Back. It had that feel to it. It had that
Yeah.
feel that no matter what they do, the Empire was always one step ahead.
Yeah.
And, I think that plays into, they're kind of showing that part of Vader where that's still Anakin. Like Anakin. That, he still has the mentality of like, okay, what would I do?
Right.
What would, what actions would I take to rescue this person? And what,
And how fun is that? Like, honestly, that we're getting, after all these years, man, we're getting more. When we thought, I didn't think we'd ever get more expansion on Anakin Skywalker or Vader. And the fact that we are, I mean, the fact that they, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but they're setting up, again, this is something I did not expect. I thought he was going to be a pass-through character. I'm going to be a villain. And that's it. He's much more than a villain.
Yes.
And you can see that they're setting it up that he's actually going to have a story arc. Now, when we first see Vader, he pops in, and of course, it's something that I thought was just a great callback was the fact that Kanan and Ezra, which I don't know if this is going to be, if this is just me nitpicking the writing or what, not nitpicking, but actually trying to comb through the writing too much and trying to find things that aren't there. But Ezra is the one who keeps sensing Vader first.
Yes.
He sensed him on board the ship. He sensed him again, and I'm wondering if this is going to end up tying back to Ezra's own arc of that he continues to flirt with the dark side a bit, not willingly. And I think that's something we talked about, you and I, last season for Star Wars Rebels, the Star Wars Rebels edition of our show, was in fact, there's a difference between Ezra and Anakin. Anakin willingly went over to the dark side. There's a difference. Ezra seems to be unknown and ignorant. Not ignorant that he's stupid, but ignorant meaning he's uneducated.
Naive.
In terms of the Jedi, naive is the perfect word for it. He's naive, and he continually kind of skates over to the dark side accidentally, as we saw last season. He accidentally summoned this big old monster that scared the Inquisitor. And he continues to do things where he accidentally taps into the dark side, and I'm wondering if they're going to continue that track. Because there's got to be a reason when you're writing a script, there's got to be a reason why you keep going back to Ezra being the one who senses the coldness first. And then, of course, when they do sense, he senses it again in the ship when Darth Vader is after them. So I'm hoping they're going to discuss that and kind of get more into depth with that.
And I don't think he's really, like you said, he's not really aware.
Yeah, he's not aware of it. How can he be?
Yeah, but I think he's like, all right, so this is...
He's a wilder.
Yeah.
He's learning ways of the Force by accident, pretty much. And Kanan isn't fully trained.
On a side note, because I just thought about it, the way you guys were talking about it, when the characters do feel Darth Vader's presence, it is interesting now that I think about that. Everybody always associates cold with it.
Yeah.
Like he utter coldness, death, evil, anger, hate, and the thing that really makes it interesting is it. Don't you guys agree that it does actually give more depth into the character of Darth Vader?
Most definitely.
It's not Anakin anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, like I mentioned it earlier about. The thing that had me really confused was the way Darth Vader speaks. And by the way, James Earl Jones was awesome.
Yeah, but it was nice to see him back. Now his voice did sound a bit different. Are we sure it is James Earl Jones? Are we positive? Yeah. Okay.
And then, but with even with all of that, you still get the sense that Darth Vader and Anakin are literally two different people.
Yeah.
Because the way Vader speaks, and it threw me off.
Yeah, well, because you weren't thinking back to your early Jedi teachings, David.
I was weak in my ways.
You forget who you were. You are no longer that person. I mean, Darth Vader said it in Return of the Jedi when Luke said, Anakin Skywalker, my father, and Darth Vader's all what? That name no longer has any meaning, and it's the whole Sith hierarchy and how it works. It's just like a lot of religion. In general, when you hit a certain level, monks, other ancient religious beliefs, when you become a certain level in your faith, you are no longer the person, your former self. It's a lot to do. It's almost like baptism in Christianity.
Yeah,
Once you become baptized, the old person no longer exists. You've shed that old skin and you've been reborn. And that's how the Sith is. The Sith has been, when you are anointed by your master and you fully start to believe in the Sith teachings and you become that Sith Lord, you are no longer the person you were. You were reborn as a Dark Lord of the Sith. That's why Emperor is all like, Lord Vader, rise. That's why it was so good in Revenge of the Sith.
Well, in Revenge of the Sith, where you bring up, they feel the cold, the hate, the anger.
And they're all associated with Darth Vader.
But when you feel that, if you look back again in the Revenge of the Sith, and even leading up through the 3 movies and Clone Wars, is that Anakin has that hate. But once at the end of Revenge of the Sith, like where his mother is dead, he was betrayed by he feels that he was betrayed by his master, and even Padme, his wife, and finds out that she's dead, and that everything of his old life is gone. It's now it's all been a big betrayal. There's gonna be that coldness because he no longer has that emotion towards them,
right?
Because they're not there. All he has is his anger for Kenobi. Because remember, in this episode, at one point when he's talking to the Emperor, and they're talking about Ahsoka leading them to the other lost Jedi, he specifically mentions Kenobi.
I loved that, man.
Which shows that even though he's no longer Anakin Skywalker, but he's Darth Vader. He's still under, kind of all that underlying. He still has those memories. Yeah, and it shows how flawed he is as a person. Right, even as a Sith Lord, he can't get it right. Right, and a Sith Lord, even though now he has the ability to kind of get his revenge, he still fucks it up. But but again, it's one of those things where it shows just the depth. We're now getting a bigger depth of character for Vader. Yeah, and the fact that he's all for. Let's get into that since you're talking about. Let's bring up the scene that I think everybody was waiting for. We speculated for weeks, months, is Ahsoka going to know that this is Darth Vader? Because nobody knows who Darth Vader is. He's a fallen Jedi. That's all that's been released. If you look at some of the even the old EU, it's always been a fallen Jedi who killed off the Jedi. Yeah. Think about it. How can anybody really know? He annihilated everybody. The only person that knows is Obi-Wan and Yoda. Those are as far as we knew. Now, the fact that we kept questioning, does Ahsoka know? Does Ahsoka know? And we end up finding out at the end of the end of the episode, Vader's in the ship. Ahsoka's trying to figure out who this person is with the Force. She reaches out in the Force and touches his mind, and right when she does that, it's the best scene in the entire movie for me, and Vader's all, so the apprentice lives. That's all he says, and she screams and yells and then blacks out, and I'm like, okay, it kind of left us to believe whether or not, okay, does she know, or was it kind of some kind of Force backlash that kind of hit her mind, and she passed out. I'm thinking that she knew, because we found at the end of the episode, Ezra and Kanan both went to Ahsoka and asked, do you know who this Dark Lord of the Sith is? And she made a face, and from the side she said, no, I don't. And you and I, Greg, both agree that she's lying. I think she does, because I think when they all reached out and they tried to touch, touch someone, reach out and touch someone, reach out and touch Faith. Damn it. They try to find their own personal Jesus.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But no, when they reached out and she fainted and she had that backlash.
Maybe they had force sex. Maybe that's what it was.
But it was one of those things where he goes, the apprentice.
Take this mask off.
Jesus.
Oh God, I hear a bit coming up now.
Yeah, that's why I piped in for a laugh.
It's so stupid. All right, so go ahead, Greg.
But I think when she passed out and she felt that backlash.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. It was so big.
Yeah, it was. Oh, Andy.
It was with such force that she passed out.
Emperor just watches in the closet.
Yes.
Through the Force. Using the Force. Emperor Palpatine, you don't need to be in the closet. You're in a room across the galaxy. Vader doesn't know you're actually watching.
I know, but I can feel it growing. Anyway, God damn it.
Look at these sparks going everywhere.
Cuckolds them, dude.
There's a buzzing going on.
Oh, Jesus. All right, continue.
And so...
This just took a weird turn. It was totally jamming out, and then wow.
But I think, and again, me and Mike kind of agreed. And at the very end, like when they ask her, "Do you know who this person, who or what he is?" and she looks away and she goes, "I don't."
Yeah,
it's not that much her going, "No, I don't. I've never felt this presence before." Blah blah blah. Like it was. A pause going, I know who this is, but I don't. But again, like we kind of said, you even said, she doesn't want to be the one telling, like, hey, you know that guy that killed all the Jedi?
Right.
that's him, and he was also my former master. So
right. I mean, David, share me your thoughts on whether or not, because you were saying, you were the first one to say that Ahsoka doesn't know, that you believed her, that she wasn't lying. Tell me why. I would have believed
her because I would be saying, well, maybe she just has an inkling. She has like this familiar presence, an idea.
Okay,
but she's not sure, because you got the thing that always bugged me when I watched the 3 movies and then putting Clone Wars on it was like, Ahsoka must have actually known the Jedis were wiped out.
Of course, yeah.
You know, everyone knew that they were all killed.
She wasn't a monk. She just kind of left the Jedi Order.
So what's her reaction to it? I mean, I think
we're going to find out.
Would she have gone and tried to find Anakin and Obi-Wan, because those are her 2 closest?
Well, but again, like, if you know, a lot of
it's
questions.
Like family.
Yeah.
But again, like when she left and when at whatever point she heard about that somebody was going around annihilating the Jedi, they would have even said that Anakin was taken down by this person.
Right. I mean, and what's Ahsoka
that's why I was like thinking is like, maybe she thinks that Darth Vader is the one who kills Anakin.
Well, but again, like it in the original movies, it went around that he was that Kenobi even said that his Darth Vader is the one who hunted down Jedi during the Clone War, during the Clone Wars and everything, and then. And
also, that's got to be think about it. I mean, you kind of hide a lie in certain things like that because that's just something you don't want. Do you really want to tell people, hey, by the way, the person who took the entire galaxy down was a Jedi Knight? No, what you do is you add to the lie. Even though Jedis are good in a sense, that you don't
have to
want
bend
to
the truth at times.
Right. You imagine how bad that'll make them look, that their greatest enemy came from within.
Yeah. But also their greatest enemy was also their greatest warrior.
That's why I kind of figure maybe Ahsoka wasn't told it was Anakin.
Yeah.
But she was told that this Darth Vader character came out. This Dark Lord.
Maybe a Luke Skywalker moment.
Yeah. Maybe. Well, that's what I said. Well, that's what I was saying was that she when she came back, because Obi-Wan didn't want to be found. Like when he left, he did not want anybody knowing where he was going.
He has a do not disturb sign on his door in Tatooine.
Exactly. Yeah. He didn't really tell anybody where he was going.
Yeah.
I mean, the only people that knew were, I think, Bail Organa and
which that's going to come into play.
Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru.
That they knew. I don't think and that Uncle and Aunt Beru knew. So they're the only ones who are going to know. So and Ahsoka's not going to know to go ask them because she doesn't know that's their family.
Yeah, but Bail Organa may share the information.
Obi-Wan might have
somehow.
said, "Hey, don't tell. If anybody comes looking for me, don't tell them."
He's all like, "If you tell." Fucking slit your throat.
Because he's not going to know if somebody shows up saying, "Oh, hey,
put chopper on your ass."
Yeah, which we got to touch on. I'm going to touch on him next.
Okay, hold on. Just finish your thought, and then we'll jump.
I think if she came back looking for everybody, she was probably told, one, Anakin was taken down by this Darth Vader character, and that Obi-Wan is just MIA.
Yeah,
that's why. I think she doesn't know.
But again, like I think she had, but she was for how many decades was she next to Anakin during the war?
Yeah,
true.
Like how many close encounters did they have together?
Let me follow up as soon as you're done. Here.
So I think she has that feeling. It's like with Obi-Wan in A New Hope. It's a presence that she hasn't felt in a long time, and of course she's going to be. I saw that look, Mike.
Well, the Emperor's cuckolding.
Oh, God damn it! But she might be unsure. But
what if he does that? That's all he does with his Sith powers, cuckold people. Like he watches all of them across the galaxy. I watch everybody having sex.
But God damn it! New from Brazzers.
What if they do it?
God damn it! But I think that she. I think she knows it's him, but she doesn't want it to be.
Right.
She doesn't want it to be that Anakin is still alive.
I agree. Now, following up what you're saying. Now, I have to agree, David. Sometimes I agree with you. I have to agree with Greg on this one because it makes sense from a Star Wars point of view that there's certain lies the Jedi do to protect them. And I think when you think about it, look at the reason why Obi-Wan lied to Luke. Because Luke was not ready to confront this enemy. So to confront the fact that this is in fact his father. Now, Ahsoka, being the Jedi that she is, may also feel the fact that Kanan and Ezra are not ready to know the truth yet. As look at this guy was our own person. He was my master, and he's the one who slayed everybody.
He was the chosen
and also,
one.
you got to so stupid. You also got to remember that she may not know all the facts. She doesn't know what actually happened. You just found out that this Dark Lord of Sith flying in a TIE fighter is Anakin Skywalker. I think that's all she knows at this point, is the mind that she touched was that of her old master, and I think that's the extent of it. Now she is drawing the conclusions herself. Well, this is Darth Vader, right? Is this who this is? Darth Vader isn't an unknown name in the galaxy. He's a feared name.
It's a known name. But
he's a known name. So she's going to put two and two together and start realizing the lies that she's heard. So nobody knows, and I think she's going to start doing her own research, investigation. I think that'll in the end. I think that's going to be her arc of the season, is finding the truth out about Darth Vader. And then, like Greg said, I think this is going to be, or you said, this is going to be her final chapter. I think the season finale, you may see her die.
But also too, like with you touching on that, Ezra and Kanan aren't ready, given the nature of those two characters, because Ezra wanted to go back and fight him. Yeah. Ezra's all ready to go toe to toe again with Vader.
Putts.
Yeah. Putts. And then Kanan was like, you saw what he did, but Kanan will go to protect Ezra. So they're even if she said, I know, that's why she didn't say, I know who this is, because if she did, those two characters, as we know them now, would have been like, well, let's go get him. Like, know him.
Oh, dude, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. After that fight,
but again,
he threw them around like they were children.
But you're going off the fact that they're going to be like, I don't want to, like, Ezra doesn't want to fight this guy anymore. Ezra wants to fight him. Ezra's all ready to go, and Kanan's not going to let Ezra go into it alone. So Kanan's going to reluctantly go along with it, even though he doesn't want to.
Ezra's Luke Skywalker at this point, Empire Strikes Back style. Like, he's the one who doesn't really truly understand how powerful this enemy is that he thinks he can take on.
He just wants to go and take it on. Whereas, like, I see your point that they got thrown around, but again, it's kind of saying that they're going to be that logical and going, you know what, this guy kicked our ass the last time. Let's kind of be a little bit smart about it. And now that they know, they're not going to be like, well, this is one of our own. I don't want to mess with it. They're going like, this is one of our own. He hunted us down, and especially with Kanan seeing his master taken down by clone troopers, to know that one of the greatest generals in the Clone Wars was a part of this huge turn that killed his master. He's gonna go. He's gonna all of a sudden. He's gonna want that revenge, and he's gonna put a face to the reason his master died.
And that's exactly why Ahsoka is keeping the truth to herself right now, because she doesn't fully know the scope, and she's gonna investigate. She's a very smart person, and I think at this point she's got to be she's got to be the biggest strategist out of all of them at this point, because she is older, and she has seen war. And she knows what it's like to fight side by side in a long war with Jedi Knights. And I think she's playing it smart.
Too.
Right.
Yeah.
She's playing it smart.
I understand that.
And you can see, like, when we were watching, like...
No, you don't, David.
We were watching the giant space battle where, where Vader was just... One TIE fighter
that was
fucked everybody up. But like there was a point where he's flying backwards and he's just shooting down a couple of fighters.
How did that even happen?
And we're just like, we're sitting there going...
Well, dude, I was like laughing because we were watching it, and all out of nowhere, like, okay, we think the whole entire Imperial fleet's going to come because, oh my God, the rebels have been tracked, and all of a sudden a ship comes in, you're like, oh shit, and it's one TIE fighter flying in,
and it's Vader.
And he takes out the entire fleet and a TIE fighter, and it shows, and this is why I think Dave Filoni has done just to Star Wars in this episode, and it has done just to Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader, because it shows his experience as a pilot against people who are probably former farmers. Like all rebellions are usually a lot of people, these people aren't soldiers. Going against this rebel alliance was like slicing through butter. He destroyed them, annihilated them without a scratch. And there was a point where Greg and I looked right at each other, like he shooting backwards. You're just
and I'm just like, oh, those ships, I remember flying those. Pew 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 pew. I know their weak points, bitch.
Oh, it was so good, man. That was probably the highlight.
At least it's not pod racing.
Oh, God damn it!
Why'd you have to bring it down? Okay, now I think now before we end it and we get into favorite moments, is I want to talk about some of the real world themes once again that Dave Filoni is throwing in to the Star Wars world. Number one is the repercussions of war and what happens when you do fight back. Like, yes, you need to fight the evil, but there's going to be casualties on each side, and it should, and that's the real face of war, and that's something you saw, that they are pretty much responsible, the rebels, for basically this siege. This siege by the Empire that's happening on Lothal. They are single-handedly responsible because they're fighting back. And yes, it's a good cause, but at the same time, the fact that they brought that out and they're teaching that valuable lesson to Ezra, like, this is the price. This is what happens when you fight. When you go to war, this is war. This is what happens. And I kind of like that valuable thing because that's something, again, tying back into what's happening today. Like, make sure if you fight back against the greater powers, you know, in fact, what the repercussions will be, and then you have all the pieces that are laid out on the table, and you can make a informed decision whether or not this is the battle you want to fight in. And I thought that was just a great moment as well on the show.
With that, they showed that when on Lothal, when they're trying to find a way off, and they attack the Empire, basically takes down Tarkin Town.
Yeah,
and
that was brutal. Oh, I wish we saw it, but I don't think we needed to.
Yeah, you got the idea from the aftermath that Ezra finds, and you have Kanan come up, and that's when they kind of taught that lesson, was because Ezra was kind of like, we have people that are allies, we have people that want to help us, like we have, like, why is the Empire doing this? And Kanan throughout the episode, or from after kind of that, at that point really, when they go back to Lothal, is that this is what happens when you go to war. These are the side effects of trying to fight against an oppressive power or against something, against the ruling class. And he goes, and this is where we kind of brought, where they brought up that Ezra wasn't afraid, and that's what worried Kanan was, Kanan is against this because he knows the repercussions of a war. He knows what happens to people that are just trying to get through day to day. They have no involvement whatsoever. They get up, they need, they go to work, they do this, those innocent contractors on the second Death Star.
Nice Clerks tie-in.
Yep. They're just there. Yeah. They're not a part of this war, and especially the people in Tarkin Town.
Yeah.
That's where they have to live. They can't live in the main city. They can't afford that anymore. Yeah. They're all refugees. They're living where they can and trying to get by. That's it. They don't want to fight. They just want to be left alone. But because of the ties that the rebels have to that group of people, the Empire knows, hey, if we attack them, that's going to bring the rebels out. That's going to give us the ability to attract them.
Well, he said they're emotional, right? Isn't what he said, that they're emotional?
Yes. Their emotion is their weakness. Yeah. So that was one of the things where they showed that, and it was good because now it's that shows everything. Like, hey, if you're going to stand up and fight for yourself, that's awesome, but know that there are going to be repercussions, and innocent people can get hurt.
Now, we've discussed as well pertaining to Darth Vader that if you bring him in, people need to die. And we saw one thing that I was actually really surprised they did. Again, this had no Disney stamp on it. There was no kiddie moments in this. There were some funny moments, which I think is true to Star Wars. Star Wars always has some funny, like, ha-ha moments. But first off, you saw the minister get blown away.
Yes.
She got blown up. Just killed. And then the second one, you saw, again, the destruction of this entire town was murdered. An entire town. And I think that's the kind of heat Darth Vader brings. Well, I think they stay true to what he does, because a Sith Lord wouldn't even think about killing somebody.
I think that during that time too, the only thing that I was like, going, no, don't say that basically, the people were taken prisoner.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I didn't. That's the only thing that kind of took me away from that.
But they didn't, though, right?
No, they did.
They did. They took.
Oh,
they kept saying, oh, they've been taken away. They're
but I think that
I thought they said just taken away.
They were taken hostage by the Empire.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, I think I didn't mean to jump on your.
No, go ahead.
But I think going with that, where you said I don't want them to say that, is for us. We don't want them to say that because we know how the Sith operates. We know how that they're just like, you know what, I have no need for you. You're just a tool. You're just a pawn. You're expendable. But I think you're saying there's no kiddie moments. I think that's how Disney is kind of getting a little bit of a stamp.
Yeah.
Is that instead of saying, hey, all these people were murdered, they're just taken captive,
right? Yeah. And I guess you got to be doing it. That's
to where, not for us as fans, the older fans, we have this is the destruction that a Sith Lord brings that the Empire can do. But for kids, they're like, everybody died, younger kids are gonna be like, that's
people gonna die.
Oh, you're so gonna die.
You think that people gonna die?
Oh, Bassanets are gonna be so mad at this. Oh, Mr. No like
All right, we need to wrap this up. So let's talk about, let's start with David, because you've been quiet this episode. Let's start with favorite moments. And then after that, our favorite moments, we're going to actually do our final thoughts. Okay, favorite moments of this episode.
My favorite moment probably was the confrontation between Kanan, Ezra, and Darth Vader. just the fact that there was no words.
The lightsaber battle.
When he shows up and just treats them like they're
good.
Nothing.
I agree.
And I'm like going, this is what they needed to do to set the table.
Yep.
You can't have Kanan and Ezra have a chance against Darth Vader.
Nope.
So
I agree.
Especially like that was the first goosebump moment.
Yeah.
For me, especially when you don't hear anything, you just had an explosion go off. They turn around and all you see is Darth Vader standing there. Like it's very reminiscent of when we first see Darth Maul. Doors open, you see the cloak figure, lightsaber goes on, and you know shit's gonna go down.
Yeah, we both. I think Greg said I got goosebumps.
Yeah,
and I didn't want to say I did too. I think we all.
We all did.
I think we all did because
and that's what happened.
I couldn't look at you guys. I'd look straight ahead
because literally Darth Vader's standing there. And boom, lightsaber. Doesn't say anything.
Well, we were so giddy. I was like, dude, I swear to God, Darth Vader's like a hot chick with boobs. Like, that's how giddy we get.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that's what like, literally, honestly, if Doss was in the room with us, he'd be screaming that he has blue balls now.
Oh, but it's true. So that's your favorite moment?
That is my favorite moment by far.
Greg, favorite moment, keep it short.
For again, that was all of. I think everybody is going to. That's one of our favorite moments. For me, I think one of my favorite moment, or one of them, is just Chopper as a character, and we kept.
I agree.
We all kept going like Chopper's like that. Like if he could speak, he would be a foul mouthed little sailor.
Oh yeah,
and it's like Chopper, do this. Fuck you, you do it yourself.
Yeah, that's what he did.
And like we're talking about he's gonna like stab somebody. Like we make a joke, he come out with a switchblade or like a butterfly knife.
Yeah,
and I think that's what I love about the show is that you have all these characters who were, they have all their personalities. Like I'm gonna save these people. Like I want to do something righteous. And Chopper's just kind of like. Fuck, I got nothing better to do.
Right.
He's just there. And he's just like, I guess I'll fix this, open this door, do this.
Oh, no, you know what? It's like
everything's like a chore.
I saw Mike, like, you were cracking up when all of a sudden the stormtrooper opens the door, and all Chopper does is shoot the guy in the face.
He's like,
it was like someone getting shanked. It was just really fast.
Yeah, he opens the door, and like, the trooper's all, what? He's like, It's like he's like stab that motherfucker.
Yeah,
and then he's like,
and the door shuts.
And the door shuts. And then Chopper's like, bitch ain't getting in here again.
Yeah, man. Chopper it's amazing what they can do with that guy. Like, there's no words, and yet they do such a great job, really
like, where they were
giving him a personality.
They're going across this rope, and Chopper just flies by, and like both me and Mike each other, he's just kind of like,
fuck you guys.
Fuck you.
That's exactly what I heard when he was flying by. All right, so my favorite moment of this episode had to be, I mean, yes, I love Chopper. There were so many great moments, but I think my absolute favorite was when Darth Vader showed up in the TIE Fighter and when Ahsoka and Darth made that connection. I think that's my favorite one, when just that line resonated when he's all, so the apprentice lives. It was just so good, man, and it just tied in all of your favorite Star Wars moments together. It tied in the old Star Wars movies, it tied in Clone Wars, and then obviously this new incarnation, Star Wars Rebels. It was great, and I think that's probably my favorite moment. Now, that being said, final thoughts on the entire episode, and then we're going to wrap the show. Then give it a letter grade at the end. Greg, go.
Okay, so I think this is a great start for season 2. This is exactly what they needed to do. They didn't put all their eggs in one basket and like blow their load in one go, but I think this sets up like the first few story arcs that they're gonna have. Also to say it too, I fucking called it with Lando.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Lando made an appearance. You're right.
I called it.
Yep.
But a letter grade, I would probably.
And of course, he was a sleaze.
Oh yeah, it's Lando.
I'm like, what is he? Come on, Lando. You're not gonna fuck Hera over Holonet. Simmer down.
I would say this is an A. This is an A grade of an episode. Like it was just, we all agreed there were parts we got goosebumps. We all got giddy. Like I think even at the end, there's one point I was like, "Fuck yes!" Like I was clapping and shit. And this is the best way for them to start this season.
Okay.
So,
David, final thoughts.
I really, honestly, just like to reiterate what we've been saying. That I think the Rebels crew really set the table really well for season 2. What's going to happen? A lot of high notes, as we've stated. I mean, there's a lot of moments, and some moments we haven't even mentioned. Like Greg just basically brushed over one, which was the Lando.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we haven't touched on.
But overall, without giving any spoilers, I mean, the series, this is a really great time to jump back into Rebels. If you haven't watched season 1, watch it. But you don't need to right now because it's pretty much table set. We know what's at stake. Your favorite characters are going to show up. And the fact of the matter is they've got the formula down where they can do these callbacks really seamlessly and it's not forced.
I agree.
Overall, I give it an A.
Okay. I'm going to go jump into this now. Okay, so I guess my final thoughts would have to be that, number one, I'm going to start with the script. The writing was top-notch writing. This is something you do not get in American cartoons, American animation, meaning there's real characters with real issues and real moments. You don't get that in American cartoons. Very seldom do you. And the fact that they're throwing this type of writing into the season premiere, where you have your first act all the way up to an 8th act, you have story arcs being started, tip of the iceberg moments. You don't really know. There's not one point in the show that you can say that you say, yeah, that's going to happen. That's going to happen. You can't. Yes, we have ideas and clues, but there is no definitive ways that you see in writing today that a lot of television shows fall victim to. Like, you kind of can call it out and actually see it happening before it even happens, and you 99% sure it's going to actually happen. Yeah. With this, the sky's the limit. You don't know where they're going to go with it, and that's a beautiful thing. They started it, using your word, that the table has been set in a perfect way. But also the soundtrack. The soundtrack, they redid the Imperial March. They didn't actually play the Imperial March. They actually redid it, which was just so good. And the fact, obviously, we know John Williams didn't do it, but the composer took cues from John Williams and redid the Imperial March and a few other Star Wars themes and made it work in a unique fashion for Star Wars Rebels. Second, I love that Dave Filoni shows that he's a Star Wars fan through and through. One of my favorite points as well was, Dave Filoni proving he's just one of us. The C-3PO droid, the Lando Calrissian's droid. Lando had a droid in this episode, and that was actually, if you know anything about Star Wars and some of the pre-production of the original trilogy, is that was the early concept of C-3POs, what they ended up using for Lando's droid. I love that Dave Filoni continues to pay tribute to the people before him, not forgetting the roots of Star Wars. I think this was a good way, I should say, to set up a new season. I couldn't ask for a better episode. Yep. The Emperor's voice made an appearance, Darth Vader, Ahsoka, Lando, you have the groups of rebels, so much going for it. I don't know how I don't know where they're going to go with all this because it's so exciting.
There's so much. Well, and even like when we all heard the Emperor's voice, like we all got excited.
Yeah, we got giddy.
You just hear, yes.
Yeah, it was great. It was good.
Oh my God.
So I will give this an A+. I'm giving it a high rating, A+, but the rest of the episodes better be better.
I think
hopefully.
I think we're gonna have. I think it's gonna be like anything. They're gonna have those like in Clone Wars. They're gonna have those like mid episodes.
No, they're not.
No, it's all up. If it goes down,
according to Dave Filoni, is they are taking a more darker approach this season. Also, according to Freddie Prinze Jr., he said that over double the amount of episodes have been ordered this season.
Yeah, well,
so we're going to have more than double.
Don't forget, this season's also supposed to tie in apparently to Rogue One.
Yeah. I'm hoping to see some Force Awakens tie in somehow as well, because it's going to be airing by the time Force Awakens premieres in December. I'm pretty sure they're not going to be done with the season yet.
I'm telling you, what happens if we find out that Ezra is Kylo Ren?
That'd be crazy.
You know what? That would be just be.
Yeah. Ezra becomes Kylo Ren.
Well, but then you're gonna have those questions like, what was he doing during the time of 4, 5, and 6?
Right.
All right.
So that is it for today's show. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We will be back in about a week. I'm not sure. We got to figure this out. We don't know the Rebel schedule yet, but look for us on Facebook. Go to RainManWasHere.com for all Star Wars news, as well as Star Wars. I don't even know my own website. About to say StarWars.com. Yes, find our shows. I wish. From the BactaTank.com and RainManWasHere.com are the sites you can follow our show. And thank you, everybody.
And thank you, Casey, for those Rice Krispie treats. May the Force be with you.
Hello, this is Stormtrooper 1. And if you've missed any portion of the show, you can always head over to FromTheBactaTank.com and listen listen to the show at your leisure. We're also on Stitcher, Smart Radio, Stitcher.com, search Bacta, and add us to your favorites. Thank you. And listen responsibly. And may the Force be with you. And long live. Thank you for listening to From the Bacta Tank. And From the Bacta Tank is executive produced by Michael Flores and Dustin Lucas. Hosted by Michael Flores, David Zabal. You can find out more about our show by going to www.fromthebactatank.com. You can also find us on Twitter at FromBactaTank, as well as Facebook, facebook.com/FromTheBactaTank.